What's your team now, John? If you had to claim
one.
one.
It's been the Patriots for some 25 years.
That's right.
Because my relationships to Bill and to Mr. Kraft and, Tom and everybody up there. So I've been friends with them since Parcells was head coach. So wherever they went, I went. And then, as I got friendlier with Mr. Kraft and we became tight, I was always a Patriots guy since Bledsoe.
So, it's interesting, John. I got to spend a couple days with Bill Belichick when he was the analyst on the NFL 100 all-time team program at NFL Films.
Yes.
And I got to see what everybody who's gotten to know Belichick in person of who he is and sense of humor and everything that you don't see when he's moving on to Cincinnati and stuff like that at the podium.
Yeah.
What's your take on Bill? And you got a good story about music or anything?
I got a lot of good stories. Because like I said, he and I do you remember a punter on the Giants by the name of Sean Landetta?
Of course.
Okay, Sean's a good old friend of mine, and he'll always be a dear old friend of mine because I met him one night in the China Club in New York City. This is like '89, and he had his Super Bowl ring on, and he knew I was a big Giants guy, and he let me try the ring on, and then he says, if you really want, maybe I could ask Parcells if you could come to practice. And if you remember back in those days, practices were never open to the public.
Sure.
And George Young was the GM.
Oh, yeah.
Parcells, Mr. Mara, Mr. Wellington Mara.
The Duke.
The Duke was alive, and they would be at practice. So one day, Parcells allowed me to come to practice. And the first thing he did was yell at me. And I said, I know you. You're my Pop Warner coach. I wasn't even intimidated by that. But as our relationships built, and I got more access, if you will, I became sort of the mascot. And so that young guy, Belichick, Charlie White, we became pals, like really pals. Parcells was still dad, and he was the boss, and he was incredibly kind to me to let me in the locker room, on the bench, traveling to the team to away games. But my friendships built with Belichick and White, and wherever they all went, I would go and visit and hang out and blah blah blah.
Right.
And then come '96 at that Super Bowl against Green Bay, I met Mr. Kraft for the first time, and then of course I'd go to practice every year. And I opened Gillette Stadium, much like I opened MetLife Stadium. So my NFL connections were going and going and going. So then Belichick would come on the road with us, but we never told people those stories. He's a closet drummer. So like there's all kinds of stories about Bill that the world doesn't know because he's so focused on work when he's working.
Sure.
But when he's not working, he's a wonderful, warm, sweet guy, believe it or not. And, of course, he's a genius. But all that aside, the personality of the dad that I know, the guy that likes a rock and roll band that I know, that I've had more than one drink with in my life, I know. So that's the different guy I know. And I'm allowed that access because I never take advantage of it.
It's kind of like Fight Club, and as a matter of fact, I'm a little concerned even bringing it up right now. But there's a couple of threads I do want to pull a little bit here. So you said on the road. So he was a Jon Bon Jovi roadie for a little bit?
I wouldn't say he's a roadie. He's flying on the plane with me, but
roadie with benefits. Roadie with benefits.
No. No. Bill. If Bill's coming out. Oh yeah, he's been out on the road with us. In that little brief window before camp would start, if he got those couple weeks off, he came over to Europe one year. He's been to shows in the States. Oh, absolutely. For 100 years now. Yeah.
And then when you say closet drummer, like
he likes music and he's banging on a drum kit. Yes.
So what are his chops?
Many years ago.
What are his chops? I mean, can he?
He probably plays drums as well as I play football, but doesn't mean we don't love it.
It's
Not
interesting.
Everybody gets to make a living, but it doesn't mean you can't bang on it.
Exactly. It's odd enough. We're looking it up. He once banged the drums in the middle of the Garden State Parkway. It's very strange. You have the same roots, John. It's kind of crazy.